Page 157, the problem-solving process. A strategy I have always used and shared widely is, number one, define the problem at hand. A problem defined, we are often told, is a problem half solved. We cannot begin to solve a problem we do not know. A big part of a war is to learn and understand as much as possible about your enemy. Strengths, weaknesses, everything. In this case, the enemy is the problem. Just like in diseases, researchers always want to know more and more about the disease. So do your best to clearly define your problem. In my network marketing business, when it was not growing, I defined the problem as a lack of knowledge and skill. Knowledge about products, about the industry, and the selling skill. After this definition, the rest was easy. Find out what you know about it and what you can do. If it is a problem that has happened before, your experience will serve you right. Otherwise, you can use other people's experiences. You must start by asking your very self what you can do based on your own knowledge and experience. You can't run to others for what you could just handle on your own and avoid appearing foolish or lazy. In my case, choose to study was my best bet and it worked. Number 3, what can you read? I like the way courts work. When there is a difficult case, they will research and move even beyond the boundaries. They will do case studies and borrow from precedents and best practices elsewhere. That is a glimpse into what a leader can always do in order to solve a problem. Copy, edit, and paste. That is to say, find what works or what has worked somewhere, if possible. Then customize it to your situation or make it work better for you. Number 4, whom can you ask? It is important to know the difference between opinions and facts. The team around you comes in handy at this point. Knowing whom to ask, how and when to ask is equally worth considering. Many of us like starting from here, then moving upwards. Either way, work on your ability to work miracles. You will influence more people and they will follow your cause with you.
Thank you very much for reading for us. I know in leadership, we meet problems daily. And if we can solve problems, then we win even more followers. More people become loyal to us. The bigger the problems you solve, the higher your level of influence, the more recognized you are in leadership. And if you can't solve problems, you will hardly be recognized as a leader. So I think the first step would be maybe each and every one of us will just share what we've picked from that text, and then thereafter we will discuss how that applies to our situation. How have we been solving problems? I know we are all leaders. I know most of these people who are here, they all have some teams. Yes. And so there is a way this applies either to your personal situation or your organization. So let's have a reflection on the same.
Yes, welcome everybody. And as we were discussing with the OPP before the meeting, I was talking about a webinar we had on Saturday morning which was talking about the truths of contraception and abortion, the truth about contraception and abortion. And this was in reaction to a webinar that we had, that the Makerere University had on Tuesday, which with the same topic on contraceptives and abortion. And that is why, number one, defining the problem at hand. What was the problem? The problem was that the webinar on Tuesday was full of lies. It had no scientific backing, and it was full of lies and propaganda. And yet it was supposedly teaching the youth about contraceptives and abortion. And so we have two camps in this issue, what is called the pro-choice, but we call them pro-death. Actually, they're not pro-choice, because when they're giving these choices of contraception and abortion, then don't give the truth about contraceptives and abortion and the history of contraception. And there's adverse effects on women, the adverse, that it has nothing to do with health. And in fact, it is not medical practice at all. So when we were in that meeting on Tuesday, people who are trying to tell the truth about contraception and abortion were being thrown out of the meeting. So this was our problem. Our problem was, how do we counter the propaganda and get the youth to learn the truth about contraception and abortion? So like the book says, defining the problem was the first step. And how to solve the problem was now to organize our own webinar in which we promote the truth about contraception and abortion. And so defining the problem is extremely important. Then number two, finding what you know about it and what you can do. We had several pro-life doctors who have been in the pro-life movement for decades now. We have all the information and we have all the experience, and we have done a lot of research over the years. So the three of us got together and decided we're going to talk about the ethics of medicine. Medicine is the practice of diagnosis, treatment, and prevention of disease. Pregnancy is not a disease, and contraceptives are therefore not medicine. In fact, they were not allowed within 1 kilometer of a hospital because they're the same as street drugs, in the same category of cocaine, alcohol, and tobacco. But people were compromised, and then they were brought into the contraceptives were brought in. So we brought the whole history of contraceptive movement, how the whole population control agenda, sexual and reproductive health and rights, is just a smokescreen for the population control agenda. So people's eyes were opened. It's all about eugenics, that there are some undesirable races, and the whites want to reduce the population of the blacks because they want access to our resources. Therefore, they just put a smoke screen and say sexual and reproductive health and rights. So at least, yeah, we were able to use our experience and use our research to bring the truth. And you don't fight the truth with you don't fight darkness with darkness. All you need to do is shine the light, and people's eyes were open. Yeah, so I am really seeing a practical example of this in what we went through last week. Thank you very much for sharing. Is there anybody else who wants to share about this?
Yeah, next, Anthony Murithi. I know you handle problems, including when I call you. So you can share your whether this format has worked for you, whether how it applies in your situation, what you've grasped.
Thank you very much, Paul Peter and the team for that powerful reading. It is true. Like you mentioned, where I work, I'm in a position of leadership. I'm a team leader, and I have people who report to me. Currently, I have 16 people who report to me, and of course, again, you find that people come with they are different, and people will have. Okay, of course, ultimately, my role is to manage performance, to ensure the team performs, and of course, I'm measured against the team performance. So my performance is my team's performance. So I have to ensure that I monitor their performance and see whether there are any shortfalls in their performance, in the individual shortfalls. And these has also helped me a lot. So it is really practical. I need to sit down with this person, get to know from them. Okay, of course, first of all, I do my own background analysis. What could be the issue? Then we sit down with the person again to try and find out exactly what the issue is. Then from there, we chart the way forward in resolving the issue. So I agree. It is true. You cannot resolve what you don't know. Otherwise, you just be like groping in the dark, or going like what I like saying, that you're going to somewhere but you don't know where you are going. You are going to buy something but you don't know what you are going to buy. So how will you know that you've bought what you wanted to buy and you don't know what you want to buy from the beginning? How will you know that you have arrived to a place where you are going and you don't know where you are going? So knowing what is at hand makes it easier. And like the text said, that a problem identified is a problem half solved is true. It's a strategy that works, and it works for me daily. Of course, that's work. In the same way, we're like being the Kenyan that we are, I also have something that I run on the side with my wife in our business, what they call side hustle. Again, we also have workers, and we have also used the same. When we see the business is going down, they are not doing very well, then we need to find out where the problem is. And the moment we know where the problem is, then it becomes even easier to tackle that the problem at hand, the issue at hand. So it's really a practical thing, and a very, very rich text. Thank you, PPO.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you very much, Anthony. This reminds me, a long time ago when I left the university, the first organization I worked for was IAT. At one point, there was the network wasn't working at all. Nobody was able to access network internally and externally. We could not go to the internet. We could not access our own intranet. It was a big problem, almost 3 weeks. And we had the shared folders where we would pick the notes, we would save the things. And the guy in charge of IT couldn't identify the problem, and so it could not be solved. I suggested, if some of you who've been in this ICT industry for long, you remember there was a virus that came in that was called Kibaki virus. Those days, it was tough. But I thought this problem manifests like a virus. But himself, he thought that this cannot be a virus. This must be a physical problem, maybe cabling, whatever. And it went on, and it reached where, you remember those days, people did not use a lot of Wi-Fi. Most cables were rooted in the wall to tap into every terminal, that is every computer, every printer, and something like that. And they went ahead, dug the wall, going through the cables. And you see, the logic of thinking is, what could get inside there and cut the cable? It doesn't work. It can't just work. Yeah, people will bring in different stories. Maybe water got in, whatever. But I said this problem could simply be a virus thing. By the end of the day, after trying all this, the virus theory was explored. And the moment it was identified, this is a virus, it was easy. It took a few hours and it was cleared, you see. But it had taken over 2 weeks trying to identify the problem. The moment we don't identify a problem, we cannot solve it. There is just no way. I remember last year when COVID was, people were expecting COVID in Kenya. And then finally, it arrived as expected. And so, you see, we say, don't expect trouble. It has a tendency not to disappoint. So COVID did not disappoint. It came. The first days, people did not know what is this COVID, and there was too much fear. People were fearing to go outside. Others were wearing gloves and everything, because They do not know what is this virus looking like. Is it a ghost? What is it? And to date, people are working to uncover more and more truths about this virus. The other day, I was listening to another scientist who was saying, ideally, it's not even the virus itself, based on the researches that are being done and even the history of the Spanish flu and everything. It could be an element in that virus that needs to be isolated, that so far no isolation has been done. And there is that scientific process called isolation in order to know what is it in this particular virus that causes the problem. So that has not been done. And so, hence, still the groping, as Muridi was saying. The moment we haven't identified it, we can't solve it. And then therein, I also talked about copy, edit, and paste. Along the way, in business, like in my network marketing business, I realized people were copying and pasting, which is wrong because it won't work. What works for me may not necessarily work for you. I remember when we were in school, some people were very good at copying. So when they got an opportunity to copy, they would copy everything, including what you've crossed. They copy it and cross it because that could be the answer. You see, it's very interesting. But I learned that we cannot just do that. We need to copy and then we edit it, meaning we customize it to our situation. The same thing happened with the COVID again, that people were doing people were quarantining themselves. People were being quarantined in Italy. So people stay at home and all these things. And I remember this discussion came into our Rotary Club. I was saying, this is not practical for our situation. You cannot tell people not to come out. We have more poor people than in Italy. These people eat hand to mouth. What do you want them to eat? And somebody argued with me. Would you rather livelihood than life or life than livelihood? But you see, you cannot have life without livelihood. Both of them go together. And they were expecting there is going to be total lockdown. People are going to grab bags of rice, bags of food, putting in that. I was saying, this is not, this cannot happen in Kenya. If it happens, there will be a riot, and it cannot operate. But we copied some of those things. This quarantining thing. You remember contact tracing, a very silly idea. I don't fear saying, very silly idea, that I want to trace the people I came into contact with the last 2 weeks. You see, this is copying and pasting, things that simply cannot work. And so it's good that when we are checking situations, we want to solve a problem, we've identified the problem, and identifying the problem can take even much longer. We've identified the problem. The question is, what can we do? What knowledge do we have? And the other thing is, most of us are lazy. We do not want to read. But I learned that if you are in IT, all IT problems, somewhat that you are going to experience, somebody else experienced them, but they were good enough to record them. Most of us solve a problem and we don't even record it. Even in our minds, we will forget it again. So we can do our research and see what we can do, because out of every problem, we need to be wiser than we were before. If we don't take that opportunity to study, instead roll it over to somebody else to solve it for us, then we are the same people. We become the very same people we were before that problem occurred. And so we've got to be people who can think, who can research and find out the solution. Now, beyond that, we've asked, what do we read? What can I read? What can I do? What can I read? Then the last one comes in. Whom can I ask? Enough people, you'll be surprised, do not know whom to ask. Yes, they have financial problem. They will go and discuss it with a pastor who is not necessarily very knowledgeable in terms of finances. I have health challenges. I'm going to discuss with my uncle, who is not maybe a medical doctor. And by the end of the day, we get lost. We pick ideas that don't work, that somebody else hasn't tried. They're just opinions. It's good to know opinions from fact. By the way, some of the things I do, when I go to a hospital and I get the diagnosis after the lab, uh, I want to Google and find out what is this particular disease, how does it manifest, how is it handled before. And sometimes when you go to the hospitals, they will give you too many drugs, and you ask them, what is this one for? What is this one for? And sometimes they just tell you, no, this one, it's usually taken together with this, only to realize that you did not need even all of them. By the way, enough times we've gone to the hospital with the babies, and we don't use any of those medicines. By the end of the day, we realize that, oh, this is something that takes care of itself after a few days. And that's it. So we need not to be lazy in looking for information. And then, even after getting the information, it's good to verify that these are facts. These are not opinions. These are not just feelings. And so it's our responsibility as leaders to be able to to identify problems. The moment we identify them, it might take us long, but we will be able to identify them and then find out, what can I do based on my experience, based on my knowledge, based on my skills. If that cannot work, then I move to the next level. What can I read? If I've researched, I've gotten something, maybe they are still not clear, I go look for whom can I ask, with whom can I discuss this, and whichever the ideas I gather, are they factual or they are just opinions? Yes, let's move on. Elsie, what would you like to say?
Thank you for the opportunity. I actually wanted to take over from Dr. Edda when she said, be the light, shine the light. It reminded me of a conversation I was listening yesterday on TV where the person said, you're always looking out for the light at the end of the tunnel. Why don't you be the light? Because you need to shine the path. And that, for me, augurs well or aligns to what it is we're talking about this morning, where if I am going to be the light, if I'm going to be shining the path, I must be able to know what the problem is. And as an educator, what we do with the children or with the learners is encourage them to be problem solvers, critical thinkers, not always coming back and asking you, so what do I do? Like, how do I get the ball from where it is? I'm like, you know what? Maybe let's talk about it. What do you think? What are your options? So being critical thinkers, knowing who to collaborate with, and that's exactly what the system is doing for us, the competency-based system. And I'm sure if for the younger generation, if they can actually get to know exactly what these competencies are, I'm a big champion for CBC. And we as the educators are the ones who are going to be the ones to implement it in the right way for it to be effective. So the challenge for me as a problem solver is in the education sector, and I'm trusting God that we will all get it right, putting new wine in old skin. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, education has a big role to play in building children into this. The other day we were discussing that, you see, we've all been told A is for, and everyone will say apple, apple. That's a wrong way to teach. Yeah, when I would discuss with my children and I say A for antelope, or A for something else, you mention something else, they say, no, 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 no. A is for apple. Instead of asking them, A is for, then they fill in all the blank. Instead, we give them answers and then they know, they don't explore any other solution. So critical thinking, a big thing. Let's hear from Odhiambo Olale. I know you came in after we read, but at least you've had the discussion. You can always contribute as a leader.
Thank you very much. How are you all?
Doing great.
How are you?
Fantastic.
You're fine?
Yes, yes.
This is a beautiful morning. It looks like we'll be having a good weather. The winter seems to be clearing. We had some slight rains. Yeah, what I'd like to contribute, thanks, discussion. I like the discussion. It's really good. My take here is that I just want to pick up from Michael, what you had just said earlier on about cutting and and posting.
Pasting.
Say what? Cut and paste. Yeah,
Yes,
cut
yeah.
and paste. I was in a leadership team in our church in NBC Ngong Road, Nairobi Baptist Church, where we went to plant a church in Kibera. And we decided to go the so-called easy route of cut and paste. So what was on Ngong Road, we took to Kibera. And we were wondering why things are just not working. Yeah, so I was saying, we tried that shortcut of cut and paste in Kibera, just to realize things are not going well. And then, because it was a matter of faith, so critical thinking was not very much encouraged, because you say we're going by faith. Anyway, by the time we realized that our problem was that the congregants in Kibera are different from the ones of Ngong Road. That is when now that's when now we went back to the drawing board. We left that business of cut at base, and we found that we were making a lot of progress. In other words, lessons learned is that, like you say, you need to do a lot of research. We need to put our emotions aside. We need to face the reality that this is a problem, and this is how you're going to solve it with the group where you are. That's now again part of the group dynamics. In group dynamics, you don't work alone. You work with the team, and you must show them the way. In fact, it reminds me of a very good quote by former British Prime Minister. The one who lasted for a very short time and was a victim of the Brexit. Somebody called. The lady.
May.
Yes, Theresa May. Yeah, she said during the crisis, a good leader is one who makes decisions. It does not matter whether it's right or wrong. When you are a leader, you must make a decision. In other words, you must be on your toes, because these things will come. And I think it talk about problem solving and analytical thinking. That is where we need to focus on. And like you said, we also don't need to do a lot of research. We need to do a lot of reading, networking, and also coming up with solutions in the practical way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes, that's a good one. Yeah, that in faith matters, we were putting logical thinking aside. That becomes a big problem. Yeah. Yes, Musa, would you like to contribute to this from your wealth of experience and knowledge?
There's a time Wakashia stopped me and I said, why do you keep on sending engineers left, right, and center in the country? Why don't you people just think of one very big, tall tower somewhere and it radiates into the entire country so that you don't send everybody left, right, and center? I thought this guy is a cashier. He's not an engineer, but he has an idea that can inspire somebody to think of it. But then I told him there's what is already happening. There's a satellite communication that broadcasts in the world. He said, now we are talking, that is it. So you see, problem fixing is not a preserve of that professional line that you're having. And inspiration can come from very far away, somewhere you least expect, that will help you to go to the next level. And I like what you said, Paul, that ask someone. You may not necessarily ask that professional. You can ask somebody who, you just share the idea, the problem in your mind, and it gives you a statement that inspires you to go to the next level. And you're like, wow, I never thought of it that way. This person may give you a very crude statement, but coming to think of it from your analytical mind, you will definitely find a solution out of it. Thank you for this, Paul. Thanks. It's a good one. Thank you.
Thank you. You remind me about a story I heard about how elevators started being projected outside instead of within the house, within the building. They say that after building, I don't remember which specific building, the exact story, but this is the way it goes. After raising a building and they had only one lift, it started being congested. And people started complaining, taking too long, opening, and somewhat maintenance cost was also going high. So the management thought it's a good idea to build another one so that there are two of them. So they wanted to dig the floors from the top floor all the way down so that they can fix another elevator. But when they were out now starting to do the feasibility study, starting to mark the territories, what happened was a cleaner was not very happy with that idea of walking where he was cleaning and asked, what is it that you people are trying to do walking up and down about where I'm working? Then they said, you know, we want to put an elevator here. So you actually don't even need to struggle cleaning. We want to dig in. Then he said, why can't you go do it outside? And that inspired the thinking, by the way, why not do it outside? Yeah. So ideas can come from very unfamiliar sources, but they will inspire you. And that's why it's also good to discuss. Another one came in where and I think this is also a real example. I think some president ordered a custom-made vehicle, and it was a very beautiful vehicle, but trying to pass the gate, it wasn't able to pass. And people struggled the whole day trying now, should we remove the doors? How will we make it? Should we remove the roofing? And by the end of the day, after struggling, another security guard who was there, not being asked, is not an engineer, just said, but why can't you deflate the wheels, the tires a little? And it was that simple. So what you're speaking makes a lot of sense. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes, can we have another person? Melvin, what would you like to say about problem solving? I know you solve them every day.
Thank you, Otieno, Paul Peter. What I liked from the discussion was your cascade of solving problems. First, you use your own resources, then you research, and then you look for somebody who is an expert in the field. Now, you see, within each of us is a book about identifying and solving problems in our environment. Now, as you rightly pointed out, some books are merely opinions, and some books are written by authorities like yourself. You have picked on problems and you have come up with solutions. Now, what really opened up my mind was the fact that every time you visit a doctor with your children, you will take the diagnosis and you will take the prescription and you will do some research about it. And I want to thank Elsie Kagimbi, who is so involved in problem-based learning in the CBC curriculum. But that CBC curriculum has brought another problem to us, in that people have published books in which our children are supposed to write. Whatever happened to writing on a blank piece of paper? Okay, we are parents, we have a problem. How are we going to solve this problem? A problem which has been put to us by the system. I'll leave that as extra food for thought, and I'll be side chatting Elsie about it. So that's, I want to thank you for this conversation, because some of us were old school. We never went to Moore University Medical School, where they are taught problem-based learning. Okay, so we were taught disparate facts, and we are supposed to put them all together into a solution, which more often than not is copy-paste. a copy-pasted solution, just like you rightly pointed out with COVID. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Melvin. Yes. By the way, you know, professions and professionals need to be thinkers. And this is why I've had a problem with most medics who are waiting for, as I like saying, waiting for some server in WHO to tell them what the virus is all about and how it needs to be treated. And I was discussing this the other day with some other doctors, that does it mean you graduate in the university and export your degree abroad, and now you wait for some WHO to tell you, instead of thinking rationally, instead of making use of your knowledge to come up with a solution? You see, so we need to be thinking, we need to be problem solvers. Otherwise, the problems for Africa will stay. Today, Africa still lags behind. While we have all the resources, our land is the largest, all Asia, America, Europe combined cannot be equal to Africa. We have the youngest population, we have what it takes, but most of us do not want to solve problems. We want to hand over our problems. I don't know, Chris, are you in a position to speak? You are here from the beginning. Before we close, we have 4 minutes.
Yes, Paul.
Yeah, give a comment.
Okay, thank you for the news. Actually, I wanted to share something small.
Yes.
And I've appreciated all your input. And actually, I've come to realize one thing, that myself being a banker, there's a scenario where we had a problem last week. Then when we had a scenario last week, I noticed that we have become robots in my profession. Actually, we are not myself. By work, I'm the head teller and also do some customer service. But we had a small problem. But what you are doing is just the way you have said, copy pasting. So what we did, when I got home, I picked a pen and a paper and a notepad and tried to think. And after some 2 days, I came with a solution. But after that, I was staying in my room and thinking, I'm a graduate myself, and we are exploring these people with MBAs, but we can't think. It's just a small thing but we are just exploring what has been happening. So actually, that has happened to us, and I think it's a plus for us, and something that we should consider. And also on the part of medications. Myself, when I go to the hospital, I don't take those medications, not unless I used to consult my dad. My dad was a doctor, and also my mom is a nurse, and also other doctors. We think together, and they tell me, no, don't take this one. When I go to the hospital and I get like a flu, I'll just come and do some ginger and garlic for 2 to 3 days, and my flu is over, and I'm okay. So I don't need. I was taking those medicines for long, actually, and after some research, and I realized that even I don't need some of them. Most of them even are generic, and they are not that effective. So I think this is a good topic to think about. And that day I noted that we need to be thinkers and do critical thinking, not mental activities, like critical thinking. That has been my point. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Aduda has a comment. Kevin, kindly comment, then we close.
Thank you so much, OPP. Dr. Melvin has reminded me of something. This CBC is a real mess to first time parents like us. But I'll also be joining that conversation with Elsie. Daktari, remember me on that. So problem identified is half solved. I'm a team leader in my workplace. I have 8 people reporting directly to me. But one thing I've learned the hardest way is that at any given time, you also have to, as a leader, having identified the problem, you also need to get the opinions of people who report to you. Because from there, you might get a solution from from the people working under you, in quotes. So I believe involving the rest might also lead to having the best solution to any problem that emanates in our day-to-day life. So thank you, and it's been a good discourse, and learning new things every day. Thank you so much, team.
Thank you very much. It's now 8:15. I appreciate everyone's presence and contribution.